Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated. The shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated are gaining net worth during 2006 was $16.9 billion, which increased the per share book value of both our Class A and Class B stock by 18.4%. Over the last 42 years, that is since present management took over, book value has grown from $19 to $70,281, a rate of 21.4% compounded annually. All per share figures using this report apply to Berkshire's A shares. Figure for the B shares are 1/30th of those shown for the A. We believe that $16.9 billion is a record for a one-year gain in net worth, more than has ever been booked by any American business, leaving aside boosts that have occurred because of merger. Example, AOL's purchase of Time Warner, of course, ExxonMobil and other companies aren't far more than Berkshire, but their earnings largely go to dividends or purchases rather than building net worth. All that said, a confession about our 2006 gain is in order of most important business. Insurance benefited from a large dose of luck. Mother Nature, bless her heart, went on vacation after hammering us with a hurricane in 2004 and 2005 storms that caused us to lose a bundle of super cat insurance. She just vanished last year, and the red ink from this activity turned black, very black. In addition, the great majority of our 73 business did outstandingly well in 2006. Let me focus on for a moment on one of our largest operations, Geico. What management accomplished, there was some extraordinary that I've never told you. Tony Nicely, Geico CEO, went to work at the company 45 years ago. 2 months after turning 18, he became CEO in 1992, and from then on, the company's growth exploded. In addition, Tony has delivered staggering productivity gains in recent years. Between year-end 2003 and year-end 2006, the number of Geico policies increased from $5.7 million to $8.1 million, a jump for 42%. Yet during the same period, the company's employees measured on a full-time equivalent basis fell 3.5%, so productivity grew 47%, and Geico didn't start fat. That remarkable gain has allowed Geico to maintain also an important position as a low-cost producer, even though it has dramatically increased advertising expenditures. Last year, Geico spent $631 million on ads, up to $238 million in 2003, and up to $31 million in 1995. When Berkshire took control today, Geico spends far more ads than any of its competitors, even those much larger. Will continue to raise the bar. Last year, I told you that if you had any news on our grandson, to be sure to name him Tony, but Don Keo, Berkshire director, recently had a better idea. After reviewing Geico's performance in 2006, he wrote, "Me forget Berts, tell the shareholders to immediately change the name of their present children to Tony or Antoinette." Don signed his letter to Tony. Charlie Munger, my partner in Berkshire, is vice chairman, and I run what has turned out to be a big business, one with 217,000 employees, and annual revenues approaching $100 billion. We certainly did not plan it that way. Charlie began as a lawyer, and I thought of myself as a security analyst sitting in those seats. We both were skeptical about the ability of big entities of any type to function well. Size seems to make many organizations slow-thinking, resistant to change, and smug. In Churchill's words, we ship our buildings, and afterwards our building shapes us. Here's a telling fact. Of the 10 non-oil companies having the largest market capitalization in 1965, titans such as General Motors, Sears, DuPont, and Eastman Kodak, only one made the 2006 list. In fairness, we've seen plenty of successes as well, some truly outstanding. There are many giant company managers whom I greatly admire. Ken Chenault of American Express, Jeff Immelt of G&E, and Dick Kovacevic of Wells Fargo come quickly to mind, but I do not think I could do management job they do, and I know I wouldn't enjoy many of the duties that come with their positions. Meeting speeches, foreign travel, the charity circuit, and governmental relations. For me, Ronald Reagan had it right. It's probably true that hard work never killed anyone, but why take the chance? So I've taken the easy route, just sitting back and working through great managers who run their own shows. My only tasks are to cheer them on, sculpt and harden our corporate culture, and make major capital allocation decisions. Our managers have returned this trust by working hard and effectively. For their performance over the last 40 years, and particularly for 2006, Charlie and I thank them. Yardsticks. Charlie and I measured the Berkshire's progress and evaluate its intrinsic value in a number of ways. No single organization is effective in doing these jobs, and even if the lunch of statistics will not capture some factors that are important. For example, it is essential that we have our managers much younger than available to succeed. Berkshire has never been in better shape in this regard, but I can't prove it to you with numbers. There's statistics, however, that are real important. So first is the amount of investment, including cash and cash equivalents, that we own on a per share basis. Arriving at this figure, we exclude investments held in our finance operation because these are largely offset by borrowing. Here's a record since present management acquired control of Berkshire. Year. In per share investments: 1965, $4; 1975, $159; 1985, $2,407; 1995, $21,817; 2006, $80,636. Compound growth rate: 1965 to 2006, 27.5%. Compound growth rate: 1995 to 2006, 20.6%. Net of minority interests. In our early years, we put most of our retained earnings insurance flowed into investment in marketable securities. Because of this emphasis and because the securities we purchased generally did well, our growth in our investments was for a long time quite high. Over the years, However, we have focused more and more on the acquisition of operating businesses. Using our funds for these purchases has both slowed our growth in investment and accelerated our gains in pre-tax earnings from non-insurance business. The second yardstick we use here is how the earnings have looked. Here, pre-tax earnings per share, 1965, 4, 1965, 4, 1985, 52, 1995, 1785, 2006, 3,625. Compound growth rate 1965 to 2006, 17.9%. Compound growth rate 1995 to 2006, 31.7%, excluding purchase accounting adjustment and net of minority interests. Last year, we had a great increase in non-insurance earnings, 38%. Large gains from here on, although will come only if you're able to make major and sensible acquisitions. That will not be easy. We do, however, have an advantage. More and more, Berkshire has become the buyers of choice for business owners, managers. Initially, we were viewed that way only in the U.S. and more often than not in private companies. We've long wanted, nonetheless, to extend Berkshire's appeal beyond U.S. borders, and last year, our globe-trotting finally got underway. Acquisitions. We began 2006 by completing the 3 acquisitions pending at the year-end 2005, spending about $6 billion for specific corp business. Wire and applied underwriters all are performing very well. The highlight of the year, however, was our July 5th acquisition of Most Iscar, an Israeli company, and our new associates with its chairman, Elton Wertheimer, and CEO Jacob Harpaz. The story here began October 25, 2005, when I received a 1/1/4 page letter from Aitan, of whom I knew nothing. The letter began, I am ready to introduce you to Iscar, and proceeded to describe a cutting tool business carried on in 61 countries. Then Aitan wrote, we have for some time considered the issues of generational transfer and ownership that are typical for large family enterprises, and have given much thought to Iscar's future. Our conclusion is that Berkshire Hathaway would be the ideal home for Iscar. We believe that Iscar would continue to thrive as part of your portfolio business. Overall, Aitan's letter made the quality of the company and the character of its management lead of the page that also made me want to learn more. In November, Aitan, Jacob, and Iscar CFO Danny Goldman came to Omaha. A few years with them convinced me that if we were to make a deal, we would be teaming up with extraordinarily talented managers who could be trusted to run the business after a sale with all of the energy and dedication that they had exhibited previously. However, having never bought a business based outside of the U.S., though I had bought a number of foreign stocks, I need to get educated on some tax and jurisdictional matters. When that task completed, Berkshire purchased 80% of Iscar for $4 billion. The remaining 20% stays in the hands of the Wertheimer family, make it our valued partner. Iscar's product are small consumable cutting tools that are used in conjunction with large and expensive machine tools. It's a business without magic except for that imparted by the people who run it, but Aitan, Jacob, and their associates are true managerial magicians who constantly develop tools that make their customers' machine more productive. The result, Iscar makes money because it enables its customers to make more money. There is no better recipe for continued success. In September, Charlie and I, along with 5 Berkshire associates, visit Iscar in Israel. We, and I mean every one of us, have never been more impressed with any operation. At Iscar, throughout Israel, brains and energy are ubiquitous. Berkshire shareholders are lucky to have joined with Aitan, Jacob, Danny, and their talented associates. A few months later, Berkshire again became the buyer's choice in deal bought to us by my friend John Roach of Fort Worth. John, many of you remember, was chairman of Justin Industries, which we bought in 2000. At that time, John was helping John Justin, who was terminally ill, find a permanent home for his company. John Justin died soon after we bought Justin Industries, but it has since been run exactly as we promised him it would be. Visiting me in November, John Roach bought, along Paul Andrews Jr., owner of about 80% of TTI, a Fort Worth distributor of electronic components, over a 35-year period. Paul built TTI from $112,000 of sales to $1.3 billion. He's a remarkable entrepreneur and operator. Paul, 64, loves running his business, but not long ago he happened to witness how disruptive the death of a founder can be both to private company employees and the owners of family. What starts as disruptive for more often evolves into destructive. About a year ago, therefore, Paul began to think about selling TTI. His goal was to put his business in the hands of an owner he had carefully chosen rather than allowing a trust fund officer or lawyer to conduct an auction after his death. Paul rejected the idea of strategic buyer, knowing that in the pursuit of synergies, an owner of type that would be apt to dismantle what he had so carefully built, a move that would uproot hundreds of his associates, and perhaps owned TTI's business in the process. He also ruled out a private equity firm, which would very likely load the company with debt and then flip it as soon as possible. That left Berkshire. Paul and I met on the morning of November 15 and made a deal before lunch. Later, he wrote me after a meeting, I am confident that Berkshire is the right owner for TTI. I'm proud of our past, excited about our future, and so are Charlie and I. We also made some tuck-in acquisitions during 2006 at Fruit of the Loom, Fruit, Mitex, CTB, Shaw, and Clayton. Fruit made the largest purchases. First, it bought Russell Corp, a leading producer of athletic apparel and uniforms, for about $1.2 billion, including assumed debt. And in December, it agreed to buy the intimate apparel business of VF Corp. Together, these acquisitions add about $2.2 billion to Fruit sales and bring them about 23,000 employees. Charlie and I love it when we can acquire business that can be placed under managers such as John Holland at Fruit. I've already shown their stuff at Berkshire. Mitex, for example, has made 14 acquisitions since we purchased it in 2001, and Gin Toombs have delivered results from these deals far excess what you had predicted. And in fact, we We leverage the managerial talent already with us by stuck-in deals. We will make many more. We continue, however, to need elephants in order for us to use Berkshire's flow of incoming cash. Charlie and I must therefore ignore the pursuit of mice and focus our acquisition efforts on a much bigger game. Our example is the older man who crashed his grocery cart into that much of a younger fellow. While both were shopping, the older man explained apologetically that he had lost track of his wife and was preoccupied searching for her. His new acquaintance said that by coincidence, his wife had also wandered off and suggested that it might be more efficient if they jointly looked for the two women. Agreeing, the older man asked his new companion what his wife looked like. She's a gorgeous blonde. The fellow answered with a body that would cause a bishop to go through a stained glass window. And she's wearing tight white shorts. How about yours? The senior said and wasted no words. Forget her. We'll look for yours. What we are looking for is described on page 25. If you have an acquisition candidates that fits, call me day or night and then watch me shatter a stained glass window. Now, let's examine the four major operating sectors of Berkshire, lumping their financial figures together in Pete's analysis, so we'll look at them as four separate businesses, starting with the all-important insurance group. Next month marks the 40th anniversary of entrance in the insurance business. It was March 9, 1965 that Berkshire purchased National Indemnity and its companion company, National Fire and Marine, from Jack Ringwald for $8.6 million. Jack was a longtime friend of mine and an excellent but somewhat eccentric businessman. For about 10 minutes every year, he would get the urge to sell his company, but those moods, perhaps bought in by tiff, with regular unfavorable jury verdict, quickly vanished. In the mid-1960s, as investment banker Charlie Hyder, a mutual friend of mine, and Jack ordered me the next time Jack was in heat. When Charlie's call named, I sped to meet Jack. We made a deal in a few minutes with me waiving an audit, due diligence, or anything else that would give Jack an opportunity to consider. We just shook hands, and that was that. When we were due to close the purchase of Charlie's office, Jack was late. Finally arriving, he explained that he had been driving around looking for a parking meter with some unexpired time. That was a magic moment for me. I knew then that Jack was going to be my kind of manager. When Berkshire purchased Jack's two insurers, they had a float of $70 million. We've regularly offered a long explanation of float in earlier reports, which you can read on our website. CP float is money we hold that is not ours, but we get to invest. At the end of 2006, our float had grown to $15.9 billion, and we have since written a huge retroactive reinsurance contract with Equitas, which I will describe in the next section, that boosts float by another $7 billion. Much of the gain we've made has come through our acquisition of other insurers, but we've also had outstanding internal growth, particularly at Ajit Jain's Amiting Reinsurance operation. Naturally, I had no notion in 1967 that our float would develop as it has. There's much to be said for just putting one foot in front of the other every other day. The float from retroactive reinsurance contracts, of which we have many, automatically drifts from over time. Therefore, it will be difficult for us to increase float in the future unless we make new acquisitions in the insurance field. Whatever its size, however, the all-important cost of Berkshire's float over time is likely to be significantly below that of the industry, perhaps even failing less than zero. In other words, over time there will be bad years periodically. You can be sure of that. In 2006, though, everything went right and the insurance really right. Our managers, Tony Lightly, Geico, Ajit Jain, BH Insurance, Joe Brandon and Todd Montross, General Ray, Don Worcester, National Indemnity, Primary, Tom Herney, US Wellbill, Tim Kenzie, Medical Protective, Rod Eldred, Home State Companies in Cyprus, Sid Ferenc, and Steve Menzies, Applied Underwriters, John Kaiser, Central States and Dan Toll, Kansas Banker Security, simply shot the lights out when I recite their names. I feel as if I'm at Cooperstown reading from a Hall of Fame roster. Of course, the overall insurance industry also had a terrific year in 2006, but our managers delivered results generally superior to those of their competitors. Below is the total underwriting and float for each major sector of the insurance. Enjoy the view because you won't see another like it. Insurance operations, General Ray, BH Insurance, Geico, other primary total, includes MedPro from June 30, 2005, includes a underwriter from May 19, 2006. In $1 million. Underwriting profit loss, 2006, 526, 1,658, 1,314, 340, 3,838. 2005, 334, 1,069, 1,221, 235, $53. Year-end float, 2006, 2,827, 16,860, 7,171, 4,029, 50,887. 2005, 22,920, 16,233, 6,692, 3,442, $49,287. In 2007, our results from the bread and butter lines of insurance will deteriorate, though I think they will remain satisfactory. The big unknown is Supercat Insurance, where the terrible hurricane seasons of 2004 all have aberrations, or were they our plans first warning that the climate of the 21st century will differ materially from what we've seen in the past? If the answer to the second question is yes, 2006 will soon be perceived as misleading period of calm, preceding a series of devastating storms which rocked the insurance industry. It's naive to think of Katrina as anything close to a worst-case event. Neither Ajit Jain, who manages our Supercat operation, nor I know what lies ahead. We do know that it would be a huge mistake to bet that evolving atmospheric changes are benign in their implications for insurers. Don't think, however, that we have lost our taste for risk. We remain prepared to to lose $6 billion in a single dollar event, and we have been paid appropriately for assuming that risk. We are not willing, though, to take on a very small exposure prices that don't reflect our evaluation of loss probabilities. Appropriate prices don't guarantee profits in any given year, but appropriate prices most certainly guarantee eventual losses. Rates have recently fallen because a flood of capital has entered the super cat field. We have therefore sharply reduced our one's exposure. Our behavior to parallels at which we employ in financial markets: be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. Lloyd's, Equitas, and retroactive insurance. Last year, we were getting now to Equitas. Berkshire agreed to enter into a huge retroactive insurance contract, a policy that protects and insures against losses that have already happened, but whose cause is not yet known. I'll give you details of the agreement shortly, but let's first take a journey through insurance history, following the route that led to our deal. Our deal begins at around 1688 when Edwards Lloyd opened a small coffee house in London. Though no Starbucks shop was destined to achieve worldwide fame because of the commercial activities of its clientele, ship owners, merchants, and venturesome British capitalists. As these parties sipped Edwards' brew, they began to write contracts transferring the risk of a disaster at sea from the owners of ships and their cargo to capitalists who wagered that a given voyage would be complemented with an incident. These capitalists eventually became known as underwriters at Lloyd's. Though many people believe Lloyd's to be an insurance company, that is not the case. It is instead a place where many members insurers transact business just as they did centuries ago. Over time, the underwriters solicited passive investors to join in syndicates. Additionally, the business broadened beyond marine risk into every imaginable form of insurance, including exotic coverage that spread the fame of Lloyd's far and wide. The underwriting left the coffee house found grander quarters and formalized some rules of associations that those persons who passively backed the underwriters became known as names. Eventually, the names came to include many thousands of people from around the world who joined expecting to pick up some extra change without effort or serious risk. True prospective names were always solemnly told that they would have unlimited and everlasting liability for the consequences of their syndicate's underwriting. Down to the last cufflink, as a quaint description went, but that warning came to be read as perfunctory. 300 years of retained cufflinks acted as a powerful sedative to the names poised to sign up. Then came asbestos. When its prospective costs were added to the tidal wave of environmental and product claims that surfaced in the 1980s, Lloyd began to employ policies written decades earlier and largely forgotten about. Were developing huge losses. No one could intelligently estimate their total, but was certain to be many terms of billions of dollars. The specter of unending and unlimited losses terrified existing names and scared away prospects. Many names opted for bankruptcy. Some even chose suicide. From the shambles, there came a desperate effort to resuscitate Lloyd's in 1996. The powers that be at the institution allotted £11.1 billion to a new company, Equitas, and made it responsible for paying all claims and policies written before 1993. In effect, this plan pulled the misery of many syndicates in trouble. Of course, the money allotted could prove to be insufficient, and if that happened, the names remained liable for the shortfall. But the new plan, by concentrating all of the liabilities in one place, had the advantage of eliminating much of the costly intramural squabbling that went on among syndicates. Moreover, the pooling allowed claims evaluation, negotiating, and litigation to be handled more intelligently than had been the case previously. Equitas embraced Ben Franklin's thinking, we must hang all together, or surely we should hang separately. From the start, many people predicted Equitas would eventually fail, but as a JIT, I reviewed the facts in spring 2006, 13 years after the last exposed policy had been written and after payment of £11.3 billion in claims, we concluded the patient was likely to survive, and so we decided to offer each insurance policy to Equitas. Because plenty of imponderable continues to exist, the Berkshire could not provide Equitas as to 27,972 names, a limited production, but we said, and I'm simplifying, that if Equitas would give us $7.12 billion in cash and securities, this is the float I spoke about, we'd pay all of its future claims and expense up to $13.9 billion, and amount was $5.7 billion above what Equitas had recently guessed its ultimate liabilities to be. Thus, the name received a huge and almost certainly sufficient amount of future protection against unpleasant surprises, and either protection is so large that Equitas plans a cash payment to thousands of names in an event a few of them had ever dreamed possible. And how will Berkshire fare? That depends on how much known claims will end up costing us, how many yet to be presented claims will surface and what they will cost, how soon claim payments will be made, and how much we earn out the cash received before it must be paid out. Ajit and I think are the odds in our favor, and should we be wrong, Berkshire can handle it. Scott Moser, CEO of Equitas, summarized the transaction neatly. Names wanted to sleep easy at night, and we think we've just bought them the world's best mattress, DQ. Warning, it's time to eat your broccoli. I am now going to talk about accounting matters. I owe this to those Berkshire shareholders who will love reading about debits and credits. I hope both of you find this discussion helpful. All others can skip this section. There will be no quiz. Berkshire has done many transactions about numbers and amount or multiple of such policies entered into by any other insurer. We are reinsurer of choice for these coverages because the obligations that are transferred to us, for example, lifetime indemnity and medical payments to be made to insured workers, may not be fully satisfied for 50 years or more. No other company can offer the certainty that Berkshire can in terms of guaranteeing the full and fair settlement of these obligations. This fact is important to the original insured policyholders and regulators. The accounting procedure for retroactive transactions is neither well-known nor intuitive. The best way for shareholders to understand it, therefore, is for us to simply lay out the debits and credits. Charlie and I would like to see this done more often. We sometimes encounter accounting footnotes about important transactions that leave us baffled, and we go away suspicious that the reporting company wish it that way. For example, tight comprehensive transactions described in the old 10Ks of Enron even after you know how the movie ended. So let us summarize our accounting for the equities transaction. The major debits will be to cash and investment reinsurance recoverable and deferred charges for insurance assured. The major credit will be to reserve for losses and loss adjustment expenses. No profit or loss will be recorded at the inception of the transaction, but underwriting losses will thereafter be incurred annually as the TCRA asset is amortized downward. The amount of the annual amortization charge will be preliminarily determined by how our end-of-the-year estimates as to timing and the amount of future loss payments compared to the estimates made at the beginning of the year. Eventually, when the last claim has been paid, the CRA account will be reduced to zero. That day is 50 years or more away. What's important to remember is that retroactive insurance contracts always produce underwriting losses for us. Whether these losses are worth experience depends on whether the cash we have received produces investment income. It exceeds the losses. Recently, DSCRA changes have annually delivered $300 million or so if the underwriting losses, which have been more than offset by the income, we have realized true use of the cash we received as premium. Absent new retroactive contracts, in the amount of annual charge would normally decline over time. After the equities transaction, however, the annual DCRA cost will initially decrease to about $450 million a year. This means that our insurance operations must generate at least that much underwriting gain for our overall flow to be cost-free. That amount is quite hurdle, but one that I believe will clear in many, if not most years. Aren't you glad that I promised you there would be no quiz? Manufacturing, service, and retailing operations. Our activities in this part of Berkshire cover the waterfront. Let's look at the summary balance sheet and earnings retained for the entire group. Balance sheet is $1231.06 in millions. Assets, cash and equivalent accounts and other receivable, inventory, other current assets, total current assets, 1,543, 3,793, 5,257, 363, total 9,956, goodwill and other intangibles, fixed assets, other assets, 13,214, 8,934, 1,168, 34,372. Liabilities and equity, notes payable, 1,468. Other current liabilities, 6,635. Total current liabilities, 8,103. Deferred taxes, 540. Served and other liabilities, 1,014. Equity, 22,715. $34,317 total. Earnings statement in millions. Revenues 2006, 2005, 2004. Operating expense including depreciation of $823 in 2006 and $699 in 2005 and $676 in 2004. Interest expense, pre-tax earnings, income tax and minority interest, net income does not include purchase accounting adjustment. 2006, 50,660, 49,002, 132, 3,526, 1,395, 2,131, 2005, 46,886, 44,190, 83,000, 2,623, 177, 1,646, 2004, $440,142, $41,604, 57, $2,481, 941, 1,540. The small day group, which sells products ranging from lollipops to motorhomes, earned a pleasing 25% average tangible net worth. Last year, it's noteworthy also that the operation used only minor financial leverage in achieving a return. Clearly, we own some terrific businesses. We purchased many of them, however, at large premiums to net worth, the point reflected in the goodwill item shown in the balance sheet, and in fact reduced the earnings on our average carrying value to 10.8%. Here are a few newsworthy items about companies in the sector. Bob Shaw, a remarkable entrepreneur who from a standing start built Shaw Industries into the country's largest carpet producer, elected last year to age 75 to retire to succeed him. Bob recommended Vance Bell, a 31-year veteran. Shaw and Bob as usual made the right call. Weakness in housing has cost the carpet business is low. Shaw, however, remains a powerhouse and a major contributor to Berkshire's earnings. Midsec, a front manufacturer of connectors for roof trusses at that time we purchased it in thousands of developing into mini conglomerate at the rate it's growing. In fact, Mini may soon appropriate in purchasing Midtech for $420 million. Will lend the company $200 million at 9% and bought $190 million of stock price at $10,000 per share. Additionally, 55 employees bought 2,200 shares for $22 million. Each employee paid exactly the same price that we did, in most cases borrowing money to do so. And are they ever glad they did? 5 years later, Midtech sales have tripled and the stock is valued at $71,699 per share. Despite its making for the acquisition, the cost of $281 million, Midtech has paid off its debt to Berkshire and holds $35 million of cash. We celebrated the 5th anniversary of our purchase with a party. In July, I told the group that it would be embarrassing if Midtech's stock price soared beyond that of Berkshire A shares. Don't be surprised, however, if that happens, though Charlie and I will try to make our shares move in target. All of our business are destined to increase profits when industry underlying economics are crumbling. Talent management may slow the rate of decline. Eventually, though, eroding fundamentals will overwhelm managerial brilliance. As a wise friend told me long ago, if you want to get a reputation as a good businessman, be sure to get into a good business. And fundamentals are definitely eroding the newspaper industry, a trend that has caused the profits of our Buffalo News to decline. This skid will almost certainly continue. When Charlie and I were young, the newspaper business was an easy way to make huge returns. As existed in America, as one not too bright publisher famously said, I own my fortune to two great American institutions, monopoly and nepotism. No paper in one paper city, however, better product, however, and the management could avoid gushing profits. The industry's staggering returns could be simply explained. For most 20th century, newspapers were the primary source of information for the American public. Whether the subject was sports, finance, or politics, Newspaper reigned supreme. Just as important as their ads were the easiest way to find a job opportunities or to learn the price of groceries of your town supermarket. The great majority of families therefore felt the need for newspaper every year, but understandably most didn't wish to pay for two. Advertisers preferred the paper with the most circulation, and readers tended to want the paper with the most ads and news pages. The circulator led to law of newspaper jungle, survival of the fattest. This one too, where more paper existed in a major city, which was almost universally the case a century ago. The one that pulled ahead usually emerges as a standalone winner. After a complete petition disappeared, the paper pricing power in both advertising and circulation was unleashed. Typically, rates for both advertising and readers would be raised annually, and the profits rolled in. For owners, this was economic heaven. Interestingly, though papers regularly and often in the distributing way reported the profit, believe say the auto seal industries, they never enlightened readers about their own Midas-like situation. As long ago as 1991 literature shareholders, I nonetheless asserted that this insulated world was changing right in the media business. It will prove considerably less marvelous than the industry or lenders thought would be the case only a few years ago. Some publishers took umbrage at both this remark and other warnings from me that followed newspaper properties. Moreover, it continued to tell us that they were indestructible slot machines. In fact, many intelligence newspapers have used regularly chronicled and analyzed important worldwide events, were either blind or different to what was going under their noses. Now, however, almost newspaper owners realize that they are constantly losing ground. The battle for eyeballs. Simply put, if cable, satellite broadcasting, as well as the internet had come along first, newspapers we know them probably would never have existed. In Berkshire's world, Stan Lipsey does a terrific job running the Buffalo News, and I'm enormously proud of its editor, Margaret Sullivan. The news penetration of its market is the highest among this country's large newspaper. We also do better financially than most metropolitan newspapers, even though Buffalo's population and business trends are not good. Nevertheless, this operation faces unrelenting pressures that will cause profit margins to slide. True, we have the leading online news operation in Buffalo and will continue to attract more viewers and ads. However, the economic potential of a newspaper internet site, given the many alternative sources of information and entertainment that are free and only click away, is at best a small fraction of that existing in the past for a print newspaper facing no competition. For a local resident, ownership of a city paper, like ownership of a sports team, still produces instant prominence. With it typically comes power and influence. These are rub-offs that appeal to many people as money. Beyond that, civic-minded, wealthy individuals may feel that local ownership will serve their community well. That's why Peter Kiewit bought the Omaha paper more than 40 years ago. We're likely, therefore, to see non-economic individual buyers of newspapers emerge, just as we have seen such buyers acquire major sports franchises. Aspiring press lords should be careful, however. There is no rule that says newspaper revenues can't fall below. It's expensive that losses can't mushroom. Costs are high in the newspaper business, and that's bad news. When unit volume heads south as the importance of newspapers diminishes, moreover, the psychic value of possessing one will wane, whereas owning a sports franchise will likely retain its cachet. Unless we face an invertible cash drain, we will stick in the news, just as we've said that we would. Read Economic Principle 11 on page 76. Charlie and I love newspapers. We each read 5 a day and believe that a free and energetic press is a key ingredient for maintaining a great democracy. We hope that some combination of print and online will ward off economic doomsday for newspaper, and we will work hard in Buffalo to develop a sustainable business model. I think it will be successful, but the days of flush profits from our newspapers are over. A much improved situation is emerging in NetJets, which sells and manages fractionally owned aircraft. This company has never had a problem growing. Revenues from flight operations have increased 596% since our purchase in 1998, but profits have been hectic. Our move to Europe, which began in 1996, was particularly expensive. After 5 years of operation, we had only 80 customers, and by mid-year 2006, our cumulative pre-tax loss has risen to $212 million, but European demands has now exploded, with a net of 589 customers having been added in the 2005-2006 under Mark Booth's brilliant leadership. NetJets is now operating profitably in Europe, and we expect the positive trend to continue. Our U.S. operation also had a good year in 2006, which led to worldwide pre-tax earnings of $143 million at NetJets last year. We made this profit even though we suffered a loss of $19 million in the first quarter. Credit Rich Santulli along with Mark for this turnaround, which, like many of other managers, had no financial need to work. Rich, like many of our managers, has no financial need to work, but you never know it. He'd absolutely try to monitoring operations, making sales, and traveling to constantly widen the already enormous lead that NetJets enjoys over its competitors. Today, the value of the fleet we manage is far greater than that managed by our three largest competitors combined. There's a reason NetJets is a runaway leader. It offers the ultimate in safety and service. At Berkshire and a number of our subsidiaries, NetJets aircraft are an indispensable business tool. I also have a contract for personal use with NetJets, and so do members of my family and most Berkshire directors. None of us, I should add, gets a discount. Once you've flown, NetJets return to commercial flight is like going back to holding hands. Regulated utility business. Berkshire has an 86.6% fully diluted interest in Mid-American Energy Holdings, which owns a wide variety of utility operations. The largest of these are 1. Berkshire Electricity, Northern Electric, whose $3.7 million electric customer make, and the third largest distributor of electric in the UK, Mid-American Energy, which which 706,000 electric customers, primarily in Iowa. Pacific Power and Rocky Mountain Power, serving about 1.7 million electric customers in 6 western states, and 4 Kern River Northern Natural Pipelines, which carry about 8% of natural gas conceived in the U.S. Our partners in ownership of Mid-American are Walter Scott and his 2 terrific managers, Dave Sokol and Greg Abel. It's unimportant how many votes each party has. We will make a major moves only when we are unanimous in thanking them. Wise 6 years of working with Dave, Greg, and Walter have underscored my original belief Berkshire couldn't have had better partners. Somewhat incongruously, Mid-American owns the second largest real estate brokerage firm in the U.S., Home Service of America. This company operates through 20 locally branded firms with 20,300 agents. Despite Home Service purchase of 2 operations last year, the company's overall volume fell 9% to $58 billion. And profits fell 50%. The slowdown in residential real estate activity stems in part of the weakened lending practices of recent years. The optional contracts and teaser rates that have been popular have allowed borrowers to make payments in the early years of their mortgages that fall far short of covering normal interest costs. Naturally, there are few defaults when virtually nothing is required to borrow. As the cynic has said, a rolling loan gathers no loss. But payments not made add to principal, and borrowers who can't afford normal monthly payments early or earn hit later with above normal monthly obligations. This is Scarlett O'Hara scenario. I'll think about that tomorrow. For many homeowners, tomorrow has now arrived. Consequently, there is a huge overhang of offerings in several of home service markets. Nevertheless, we will be seeking to purchase additional brokerage operations. A decade from now, home service will almost certainly be much larger. Here are some key figures in Mid-American's operations. UK Utilities, Iowa Utility, Western Utilities, acquired March 21, 2006. Pipelines, Home Service, other net earnings before corporate interest and taxes, interest other than to Berkshire, interest on Berkshire Junior debt, income tax, net earnings applicable to Berkshire, debt owned to others, debt owned to Berkshire. It includes interest earned by Berkshire, net related income taxes of $87 in 2006 and $102 in 2005. Earnings in millions: 2006, $338 million, 348, 356, 377, 374, 226, 1,718, 2,061, 1,134, 407, 916, 805, 16,046, 1,055. 2005, 308, 288, NA 309, 148, 115, 168, 1168, 200, 157, 248, 563, 523, 10,296, 1,289. Finance and financial products. You will be happy to hear, and I'm even happier that this will be my last discussion of the losses generated derivative operation. When we started to wind this business down early in 2002, we had 23,218 contracts outstanding. Now we have 197. Our cumulative pre-tax loss from this operation totals $409 million, but only $5 million occurred in 2006. Charlie says that if we had properly classified the $409 million on our 2001 balance sheet, it would have been labeled good until reached for. In any event, a Shakespearean thought slightly modified seems appropriate for the tombstone of this derivative business, all whilst that end. We've also wound up our investment in value capital, so earnings or losses from these 2 lines of business are making their final appearance in the table that annually appears in the section. Clayton Homes remains an anomaly in the manufactured housing industry, which last year recorded its lowest unit sales since 1962. Indeed, the industry volume last year was only about 1/3 out of 1999. Outside of Clayton, I doubt if the industry overall made any money in 2006. Yet Clayton earned $513 million pre-tax and paid Berkshire an additional $86 million as a fee for obtaining the funds to finance Clayton's $10 billion portfolio installment receivables. Berkshire financial strength has clearly been the huge help to Clayton, but the driving force behind the company's success is Kevin Clayton. Kevin knows the business forward and backward, is a rational decision maker, and enjoy to work with. Because of acquisitions, Clayton now employs 14,787 people compared to 6,661 at the time of our purchase. We have 2 leasing operations: CORT Furniture, run by Paul Arnold, and Extra Truck Trailers, run by Bill France. Quartz earnings improved significantly last year, and Extras remained the high level attained in 2005. We continue to look for tuck-in acquisitions to be run by Paul or Bill, and also open ideas for new leasing opportunities. Here's a breakdown of earnings in the sector: trading, ordinary income; general securities, loss; life and annuity operation; value capital, loss; leasing operations; manufactured housing finance, Clayton; other income before capital gains; trading, capital gains, losses. Total includes all liabilities. In millions. Pre-tax earnings 2006, $274, $5, 29, 6, 182, 513, 158, 1,157, 938, 2,095, 2005, 200, 204, 104, 11, 33, 173, 416, 159, 822, 234, 588. Interest-bearing liabilities, 2006, $600, 1,204, 2,459, NA, 261, 2,498, NA, 2005, 1,061, 2,617, 2,461, NA, 370, 9,299, NA. Investments. We show below our common stock investment with two exceptions. Those that had market value of more than $700 million at the end of 2006 are itemized. We don't itemize the two securities referred to, which have a market value of $1.9 billion because we continue to buy them. I could, of course, tell their names, but then I would have to kill you. Shares, 151,610,700, 36,417,400, 200 million, 17,938,100, 21,347,900, 6,788,760, 48 million, 2,338,000 million, 961,000, 3,486,000, 100 million, 229,707,000, 31,033,800, 17,072,192, 19,944,300, 1,727,165, 218,169,300, 1,724,200. Company, American Express Company, Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, the Coca-Cola Company, ConocoPhillips, Johnson & Johnson, M&T Bank Corporation, Moody's Corporation, PetroChina, A shares or equivalents, POSCO, the Procter & Gamble Company, Tesco, U.S. Bancorp, USG Corp, Walmart Stores Incorporated, the Washington Post Company, Wells Fargo & Company, White Mountains Insurance, others, total common stocks. 123106. Percentage of company owned 12.6, 4.7, 8.6, 1.1, 0.7, 6.1, 17.2, 1.3, 4.0, 30.2, 2.9, 1.8, 19.0, 0.5, 18.0, 16.5, 16.0. Cost in millions. 1,287, 1,761, 1,299, 1,066, 1,250, 103, 499, 488, 572, 940, 1,340, 969, 536, 942, 11, 3,697, 369, 5,866, 22, $1,995, $9,198, $1,792, $9,650, $1,291, $1,409, $820, $3,315, $3,313, $1,158, $6,427, $1,820, $1,123, $936, $921, $1,288, $7,758, $999, $1,313, $61,533. These are the actual purchase price and also our tax basis. GWAP cost differs in a few cases because of write-ups or write-downs that have been acquired. We are delighted by the 2006 business performance of virtually all our investees. Last year, we told you that our expectation was that these companies in aggregate would increase their earnings by 6% to 8% annually, a rate that would double their earnings every 10 years or so. 2006, American Express, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, and Wells Fargo, our largest holdings, increased per share earnings by 18%, 9%, 8%, and 11%. These are stellar results, and we thank their CEOs. We've come close to eliminating our direct foreign exchange position, from which we realized about $186 million in pre-tax profit in 2006. Earnings that have included in finance, financial products table shown earlier that water told against the inception of this position in 2002 to $2.2 billion. Here's a breakdown by currency. Australian dollar, 247.1. British pound, 287.2. Canadian dollar, 398.3. Chinese yuan, 12.7. Euro, 839.2. Hong Kong dollar, 2.5. Japanese yen, 1.9. Total gain, loss in millions. Mexican peso, 106.1. New Zealand dollar, 102.6. Singaporean dollar, 2.6. South Korean won, 261.3. Swiss franc, 9.6. Taiwan dollar, 45.3. Miscellaneous options, 22.9. We've made large indirect currency profits as well, though I've never tallied the precise amount. For example, in 2002, 2003, we spent about $82 million buying, of all things, Enron bonds, some of which were denominated in euros. Already, we received distributions of $179 million from these bonds, and our remaining stake is worth $173 million. That means our overall gain is $270 million, part of which came from the appreciation of the euro that took place after our bond purchase. When we first began making foreign exchange purchase interest rates, differences between U.S. and most foreign countries favored a direct currency position, but that spread turned negative in 2005. We therefore look for other ways to gain foreign currency exposure, such as the ownership of foreign equities or of U.S. stock with major earnings abroad. The currency factor, which to emphasize, is not dominant in our selection of equities, but is merely one of many considerations. As our U.S. trade problems worsen, the probability that the dollar will weaken over time continues to be high. I firmly believe in real trade. The more the better for both of us. In the world, we had about $1.44 trillion of this honest-to-God trade in 2006, but the U.S. also had $0.76 trillion of pseudo-trade last year, imports of which exchanged no goods or services. Ponder for a moment how commentators would describe the situation of our imports were $7.76 trillion, a full 6% of GDP, and we had no exports. Making these purchases that weren't reciprocated by sales, the U.S. necessarily transferred ownership of its assets or IOUs to the rest of the world. Like a very wealthy but self-indulgent family, we peeled off a bit of what we owned in order to consume more than we produce. The U.S. can do a lot of this because we're an extraordinarily rich country that has behaved responsibly in the past. The world is very willing to accept our bonds, real estate, stocks, and business, and we have a vast store of these to hand over. These trends will have consequences, however. Already prediction I made last year about one fallout from our spending binge has come true. The investment income account of our country, positive in every previous year since 1915, turned negative in 2006. Foreigners now earn more on their U.S. investment than we do on our investment abroad. In effect, we've used up our bank account and turned up to our credit card, and like everyone who gets in hock, the U.S. will now experience reverse compounding as we pay ever-increasing amounts of interest on interest. I want to emphasize that even though our course isn't wise, Americans will live better 10 20 years from now than they do today. Per capita wealth will increase, but our citizens will also be forced every year to ship in a significant portion of their current production abroad merely to service the cost of our huge debtor position. It won't be pleasant work, but part of each shape, but to pay for the overconsumption of our ancestors. I believe that at some point in the future, U.S. workers and voters will find this annual tribute so honors that there will be a severe political backlash. How that will play on the market is impossible to predict, but to expect a soft landing seems like wishful thinking. I should mention that all of the direct currency profits we have realized have come from forward contracts, which are derivatives, and that we have entered into other types of derivatives contracts as well. That may seem odd, since you know of our expensive experience in unwinding the derivatives book at Genray, and also I've heard me talk about systemic problems that could result from the enormous growth in the use of derivatives. Why, you may wonder, are we fooling around with such potentially toxic material? The answer is that derivatives, just like stocks and bonds, are sometimes widely mispriced. For many years, accordingly, we have selectively written derivatives contracts for few numbers, but sometimes for large dollar amounts. We currently have 62 contracts outstanding. I manage them personally, and they are free of counterparty credit risk. So far, these derivatives contracts have worked out well for us, producing pre-tax profits in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Above me, I have not gains of enemies for forward foreign exchange contracts, though we will experience losses from time to time. We're likely to continue to earn overall significant profits from mispriced derivatives. I've told you that Berkshire has 3 outstanding candidates to replace me as CEO, and that the board knows exactly who should take over if I should die tonight. Each of the 3 is much younger than I. The directors believe it's important that my successor have the prospect of a long tenure. Flanking we are not as well prepared on the investment side of the business. There's a history here. At one time, Charlie was my potential replacement for investing, and more recently, Lou Simpson has filled that slot. Lou is a top-notch investor with an outstanding long-term record of managing Geico's equity portfolio, but he's only 6 years younger than I. If I were to die soon, he would fill in magnificently for a short period. For the long term, though, we need a different answer. At our October board meeting, we discussed the subject fully, and we emerged with a plan which I will carry out with the help of Charlie and Lou. Under this plan, I intend to hire a younger man or woman with the potential to manage a very large portfolio, who we hope will succeed me as Berkshire's chief investment officer when the need for someone to do it arises. As part of the collection process, we may in fact take on several candidates. Picking the right persons will not be an easy task. It's not hard, of course, to find smart people among the individuals who have impressive investment records, but there is far more to successful long-term investing than brains. The performance that has recently been good. Over time, markets will do extraordinary, even bizarre things. A single big mistake could wipe out a long string of success. We therefore need someone genetically programmed to recognize and avoid serious risks, including those never before encountered. Certain perils that lurk in investment strategies cannot be spotted by the use of models commonly employed today by financial institutions. The impairment is also important. Independent thinking, emotional stability, and the keen understanding of both human and institutional behavior is vital to long-term investment success. I've seen a lot of very smart people have blocked these virtues. Finally, we have a special problem to consider: our ability to keep the person we hire being able to list. Berkshire on our resume would materially enhance the marketability of an investment manager. We will need, therefore, to be sure we can retain our choice, even though he or she could leave and make much more money elsewhere. There are surely people who fit what we need, but they may be hard to identify. In 1979, Jack and Byrne and I felt we had found such a person in Lou Simpson. We then made an arrangement with him whereby he would be paid well for sustained overperformance. Under this deal, he has earned large amounts. Lou, however, could have left us long ago to manage for greater sums on more advantageous terms. If money loan had been the object, that's exactly what he would have done. But Lou never considered such a move. We need to find a younger person or two made of the same stuff. The good news at 76, I feel terrific, and according to all measurable indicators, I'm in excellent health. It's amazing what Cherry Coke and hamburgers will do for a fellow. Some changes in Berkshire's board. The composition for board will change in 2 ways this spring. One change will involve the The Chase family, which has been connected to Berkshire and its predecessor companies for more than a century, in 1929, the first Malcolm G. Chase played an important role in merging for New England textile operations and the Berkshire Fine Spinning Associates. That company emerged with Hathaway Manufacturing in 1955 to form Berkshire Hathaway, and Malcolm G. Chase Jr. became its chairman. Early in 1965, Malcolm arranged for Buffett Partnership Limited to buy a key block of Berkshire shares, and Malcolm is new controlling shareholders of the company. Malcolm continues non-executive chairman until 1969. He was both a wonderful gentleman and a helpful partner. That description also fits his son, Malcolm Kim Chase, who succeeded his father on Berkshire's board in 1992, but last year, Kim, now actively and successfully running a community bank that he founded in 1996, suggested that we find a younger person to replace him on our board. We have done so, and Kim will step down as the director of the annual meeting. I owe much to the Chases and wish to thank Kim for his many years of service to Berkshire. In selecting a director, we were guided by our long-standing criteria, which are that board members be owner-oriented, business-savvy, interested, and truly independent. I say truly because of many directors who are now deemed independent by various authorities and observers are far from that, relying heavily as they do on directors' fees to maintain their standard of living. These payments, which come in many forms, often range between $150,000 to $250,000 annually. Compensation may approach or even exceed all the income of the independent director. And surprise, surprise, director compensation has soared in recent years, pushed up by recommendation from corporate America's favorite consultant, Ratchet, and Bingo. The name may be phony, but the action it conveys is not. Charlie and I believe our four criteria are essential of directors to do their job, which by law is to faithfully represent owners. Yet these criteria are usually ignored. Instead, consultants and CEOs seeking board candidates will often say, we're looking for a woman or Hispanic or someone from abroad or what you have. It sometimes sounds as if the mission is to sock Noah's Ark. Over the years, I've been queried many times about potential and have yet to hear anyone ask, does he think like an intelligent owner? The questions I instead get would sound ridiculous to someone seeking candidates for, say, football team or arbitration panel or military command. In those cases, the selectors would look for people who had specific talents and attributes that were required for a specialized job. At Berkshire, we are in the specialized activity of running a business well, and therefore we seek business judgment. That's exactly what we found in Susan Decker, CFO of Yahoo, who will join our board at the annual meeting. We are lucky to have her. She scores very high in our four criteria, and additionally 44 is young, an attribute, as you may have noticed, that your chairman has long lacked. We will seek more young directors in the future, but never by sliding the four qualities that we insist upon. This and that. Berkshire will pay about $4.4 billion in federal income tax on its 2006 earnings. In its last fiscal year, the U.S. government spent $2.6 trillion, or about $7 billion per day. Thus, more than half of one day, Berkshire picked up the tab for all federal expenditures, ranging from Social Security and Medicare payments to the cost of our armed services. Had there been only 600 taxpayers, well, Berkshire, no one else in America would have needed to pay any federal income or payroll taxes. Our federal return last year, we should add, ran to 9,386 pages to handle its filing state and foreign tax returns, the SEC requirement, and all other matters involved in running Berkshire. We have gone all the way up to 19 employees at world headquarters. This crew occupies in town 708 square feet of space, and Charlie at world headquarters west in Los Angeles uses another 655 square feet. Our home office payroll, including benefits and counting both locations, totaled $3,531,978. Last year, we were careful when spending your money. Corporate bigwigs often complain about government spending, criticizing bureaucrats who, they say, spend taxpayers' money differently from how they would if it were their own, but sometimes financial behavior executives will also vary based on whose wallet is getting depleted. Here's an illustrative tale from my days at Salomon in the 1980s. The company had a barber, Jimmy by name, who came in a week to give free haircuts to top brass. A manicurist was also on tap. Because of cost-cutting drive, patrons were told to pay their own way. One top executive, not the CEO, had previously visited Jimmy weekly, but immediately once every 3 week schedule. Every now and then, Charlie and I catch on early to the tide-like trend, the one brimming forever with commercial promise. For example, the American Airlines was the Smiles and Americans Express with credit card points are credited as being trailblazers and granting customers rewards. Charlie and I were far ahead of him in spotting the appeal of this one powerful idea. Excited by our insight, the two of us jumped into the reward business way back in 1970 by buying control of a trading stamp operation. Blue Chip Stamps. In that year, Blue Chip had sales of $106 million, and its stamps were prepared in California. In 1970, indeed, about 60 billion of our stamps were licked by savers and pasted into books and taken to Blue Chip redemption stores. Our catalog of rewards was 116 pages thick and chock full of tantalizing items. When I was told that even certain brothels and mortuaries gave stamps to their patrons, I felt I had finally found a sure thing. Well, not quite. From the day Charlie and I stepped into Blue Chip's picture, the business went straight downhill. By 1980, sales had fallen to $19.4 million, and by 1990, sales were bumping along at $1.5 million. No quitter, I redoubled my managerial efforts. Sales then fell another 98% last year, and Berkshire's $98 billion of revenue, all of $25,920, no zeros omitted, came from Blue Chip, ever hopeful Charlie and I soldier on. I mentioned last year that in my service on 19 corporate boards, not counting Berkshire or other controlled companies. I've been the typhoid Mary of the compensation committees. At only one company was I sent to committee duty, and then I was promptly voted on the most crucial decision that we faced. My ostracism has been peculiar, considering that I certainly haven't like experience in setting CEO pay at Berkshire. After all, I'm one-man compensation committee with terms, salaries, incentives. CEOs of around 40 significant operating businesses. How much time does this aspect of my job take? Virtually none. How many CEOs have voluntarily left us for other jobs in our 42-year history? Precisely none. Berkshire employs many different incentive arrangements with their terms depending on such elements as the economic potential or capital intensity of CEO's business. Whatever the compensation arrangement, though, I try to keep it both simple and fair. When we use incentives, and these can be large, they are always tied to the operating results for which a given CEO has authority. We issue no lottery tickets that carry payoffs and relate to business performance. If a CEO bets .300, he gets paid for being a .300 hitter, even if circumstances outside of his control cause Berkshire to perform poorly. And if he bets .150, he doesn't get a payoff just because the success of others have enabled Berkshire to prosper mightily. An example, we now own $61 billion of equities at Berkshire, whose value can easily rise or fall by 10% in a given year. Why in the world should pay for our operating activity be affected by such $6 billion swings? However important that gain or loss may be shareholders. You've read loads about CEOs who have received astronomical compensation for mediocre results, much less what advertises the fact that American CEOs also generally live the good life. Many, it should be emphasized, are exceptionally able and almost all work far more than 40 hours a week, but they are usually treated like royalty in the process, and we're certainly going to keep it that way at Berkshire, although Charlie still favors sackcloth and ashes. I prefer to be spoiled rotten in Berkshire. Once a pampered chef, our wonderful office group has made me the pampered chief. CEO perks at one company are quickly copied elsewhere. All their kids have one. We seem to thought, too. Juvenile to use a rationale in the boardroom, but consultants employ precisely this argument, phrased more elegantly, of course, when they make recommendations to comp committees. Irrationally and excessive comp practices will not be materially changed by disclosure by independent comp committee members. Indeed, I think it's likely that the reason the reason I was rejected for service on so many companies is that I was regarded as too independent. Compensation reform will only occur if the largest institutional shareholder would only take a few demand a fresh look at the whole system. The consultants' present drill of the FT selecting peer companies to compare with their clients will only perpetuate present excess. Last year, I arranged for the bulk of my Berkshire holdings to go to the 5 charitable foundations, thus carrying out part of my lifelong plan to eventually use all of my shares for philanthropic purposes. Detail of the commitments I made as well as the rationale for them are posted on our website, www.berkshirehathaway.com. Taxes, I should note, had nothing to do with my decision or its timing. My federal and state income taxes 2006 were exactly what they would have been had I not made my first contributions last year, and the same point will apply to my 2007 contributions. In my will, I've stipulated that the proceeds from all Berkshire shares I still own that are to be used for philanthropic purposes within 10 years after my estate is closed. Because my affairs are not complicated, it should take 3 years at most of this for closing to occur. Adding this 13-year period to my expected lifespan of about 12 years, though naturally I'm aiming for more, means that proceeds from all of my Berkshire shares will likely be distributed for societal purposes over the next 25 years or so. I've set the schedule because I want the money to be spent relatively promptly by people I know be capable, vigorous, and motivated. These managerial attributes sometimes wane as institutions, particularly those that are exempt from market forces. Age. Today there are terrific people in charge of the 5 foundations as to what so at my death, why should they not move with dispatch to judiciously spend the money that remains? Those people favoring perpetual foundations argue that in the future there will most certainly be large and important societal problems that philanthropy will need to address. I agree, but there will be then also be many super rich individuals and family whose wealth will exceed that of today's Americans, and to whom philanthropic organizations can make their case for funding. These funders can then judge firsthand which operations have both the vitality and focus to best address the major societal problems that then exist in the way a market test of ideas and effectiveness can be applied. Some organizations will deserve major support, while others will have outlived their usefulness. Even if people above ground make their decisions perfectly, they should be able to allocate funds more rationally than a decent 6 feet under will have ordained decades earlier. Rules, of course, can always be rewritten, but it's very unlikely that my thinking will change in a material way. A few shareholders have expressed concern that sales of Berkshire by the foundation receives shares will depressed The stock. These fears are unwarranted. The annual trading volume of many stocks exceeds 100% of the outstanding shares, but nevertheless, these stocks usually sell at price approximating their intrinsic value. Berkshire also tends to sell at an appropriate price, but with an annual volume that is only 15% of shares outstanding. At most sales benefit those receiving my shares will add 3 percentage points to annual trading volume, which will still leave Berkshire with a turnover ratio that is the lowest around. Overall, Berkshire's business performance will determine the price of our stock, and most of the time it will sell in a zone of reasonableness. It's important that the foundations receive appropriate prices they periodically sell Berkshire shares, but it's also important that incoming shareholders don't overpay. See Economic Principle 14 on page 77. By both our policies and shareholder communications, Charlie and I will do our best to ensure that Berkshire sells at neither a large discount nor large premium to intrinsic value. The existence of foundation ownership will in no way influence our board's decision about dividends, repurchases, or the issuance of shares. We'll follow exactly the same rule that has guided us in the past, but actions will be likely to deliver the best results for shareholders over time. In last year's report, it allegorically described the Gottschalk family, a clan that owned all the America's businesses, and that counterproductive attempted to increase its investment returns by paying ever greater commissions and fees to helpers. Sad to say, the family continued to be self-destructive ways in 2006. In part, the family persists in this folly because it harbors unrealistic expectations about obtainable returns. Sometimes these illusions are self-serving. For example, private pension plans can temporarily overstate their earnings. Public pension plans can defer the need for increased taxes by using investment assumptions that are likely to be out of reach. Actuaries and auditors go along with these taxes decades before the chickens come home to roost, at which point the CEO or public official who misled the world is apt to be gone. Meanwhile, Wall Street's Pied Pipers of performance will have encouraged the futile hopes of the family. The hapless Gottschalks will be assured that they all can achieve about average investment performance, but only by paying ever higher fees. Call this promise an adult version of Lake Wobegon. In 2006, promise and fees hit new highs. A flood of money went from institutional investors to the 2 and 20 crowd from those innocent of the enrichment. Let me explain. It's a lopsided system whereby 2% of your principal is paid each year to the manager even if you accomplish nothing. Or for that matter, losses you bundle, and additionally 20% of your profit is paid to him if he succeeds, even if success is due simply a rising tide. For example, a manager who achieves a gross return of 10% in a year will keep 3.6 percentage points, 2 points off the top plus 20% of their total 8 points, leaving only 6.4 percentage points for his investors. On a $3 billion fund, this 6.4% in performance will deliver the manager a cool $108 million. He will receive this bonanza even though an index fund might have returned 15% to investors in the same period and charged them only a token fee. The inexorable math of this grotesque arrangement started in to make Gottschalk's family poorer over the time that it would have been had it never had of these hyper-helpers. Even though the 2 and 20 action spread its effects, bring to mind the old adage. When someone with experience proposes to deal to someone with money, too often the fellow with money ends up with the experience and the fellow with experience ends up with the money. Let me end this section by telling you about one of the good guys of Wall Street. My longtime friend Walter Schloss, who last year turned 90 from 1956 to 2002, Walter managed a remarkably successful investment partnership from which he took not a dime unless his investors made money. My admiration for Walter, it should not be noted, is not based on hindsight. A full 50 years ago, Walter was my sole recommendation to St. Louis family who wanted an honest and able investment manager. Walter did not go to business school or, for the matter, college. His office contained one file cabinet in 1956. The number mushroomed to 4 by 2002. Walter worked without secretary, clerk, or bookkeeper, his only associate being his son, Edwin, a graduate of North Carolina School of the Arts. Walter and Edwin never came within a mile of inside information. Indeed, they used outside information only sparingly, generally selecting security by certain simple statistical methods. Walter learned while working for Ben Graham. When Walter and Edwin were asked in 1989 by Standing Investors Digest how would you summarize their approach, Edwin replied, "We try to buy stocks cheap. So much for modern portfolio theory, technical analysis, macroeconomic thoughts, and complex algorithms." Following a strategy that involved no real risk, defined as permanent loss of capital, Walter produced results over his 47 partnership years that dramatically surpassed those of the S&P 500. It's particularly noteworthy that he built his record by investing in about 1,000 securities, mostly of a lackluster type. A few big winners did not account for his success. Is it safe to add that had a million of investment managers made trades by A, drawing stock names from a hat, B, purchasing these stocks in convertible amounts. When Walter made a purchase, and then C, selling when Walter sold his pick, the likelihood would not have come close to pulling his record. There's simply no possibility that what Walter achieved over 47 years was due to chance. I first publicly discussed Walter's remarkable record in 1984. At the time, efficient market theory, EMT, was a centerpiece of investment instructions in most major business schools. This theory is then most commonly held that the price of any stock at any moment is demonstrably mispriced, which means that no investor can be expected to overperform the stock market averages using only publicly available information, though some will do so by luck. When I talked about Walter 20 years ago, his record forcefully contradicted this dogma. And what did the members of the academic he made you when they were exposed to this new and important evidence. Unfortunately, they reacted all to human fashion. Rather than opening their minds, they closed their eyes. To my knowledge, no business school teaching EMT made any attempt to study Walter's performance and what meant for the school chair's theory. Instead, faculty of the school went merely on their way, presenting EMT as having the certainty of scripture. Typically, a finance instructor who had the nerve to question EMT had about as much chance of major promotion as Galileo had of being named Pope. Tens of thousands of students were therefore sent out in life believing that only everyday price of every stock was right, or more accurately, not demonstrably wrong, and that attempts to evaluate business, that stocks were useless. Walter, meanwhile, went on overperforming his job made easier by the misguided instruction that had been given to those young minds. After all, if you are in a shipping business, it's helpful to have all of your potential customers to be taught that the earth is flat. Maybe it was a good thing for his investors that Walter didn't go to college. The annual meeting. Our meeting this year will be held on Saturday, May 5th. As always, the door will open to Key West Center at 7 a.m. and the new Berkshire movie will be shown at 8:30. At 9:30, we will go directly to the question and answer period, which with a break for lunch at the Key West stands will last until 3. Then after a short recess, Charlie and I will convene the annual meeting at 3:15. If you decide to leave during today's question periods, please do so while Charlie is talking. The best reason to exit, of course, is to shop. We will help you do that by filing the 194,300 square foot hall and that adjoins the meeting area with the products of Berkshire subsidiaries. Last year, the 24,000 people who came to the meeting did their part. Almost every location racked up record sales, but records are made to be broken. I know you can do better. This year, we'll again showcase a Clayton home featuring Acme Brick, Show Carpet, John Mansell Insulation, Midtech Fasteners, Carefree Awnings, and NFM Furniture. You'll find the home price at $139,900. The Alerts delivers excellent value. Last year, Helper Key West bought 2 homes in display well before we opened the doors to shareholders. Flanking the Clayton home on the exhibition floor this year will be an RV and a pontoon boat from Forest River. Geico will have a booth staffed by a number of its top counselors from around the country, all of them ready to supply you with auto insurance quotes. In most cases, Geico will be able to give you a special shareholders discount, usually 8%. The special offer is permitted by 45 to 50 jurisdictions in which we operate. One supplemental point, the discount is not additive if you qualify for another such as that given certain groups. Bring the details of your existing insurance and check out whether we can save you money. For at least 50% of you, I believe we can. And while you're at it, sign up for the new Geico credit card. It's the one I now use, sparingly of course. On Saturday, on the Omaha Airport, we will have the usual array of aircraft from NetJets available for your inspection. Stop by NetJets booth at the Key West Center and learn about viewing these planes. Come to Omaha by bus, leave in your new plane, and take it all the hair gel that you wish to board with you. In the bookworms corner of our bazaar, there will be about 25 books and DVDs, all discounted, led again by Poor Charlie's Almanac. One helpless soul last year asked Charlie what he should do if he didn't enjoy the book. Back came a Mungerism, no problem. Just give it to someone more intelligent. We've added a few titles this year. Among them are Seeking Wisdom from Darwin to Munger by Peter Bevelin, a longtime Swedish shareholder of Berkshire, and Fred Schwed's classic, Where Are the Customers' Yachts? This book was first published in 1940 and is now in the 4th edition. The funniest book ever written about investing and likely delivers many truly important messages on the subject. Attachment to the proxy material that is enclosed with this report explains how you can obtain the credential you will need for admission to the meeting and other events. As for plane hotel reservations, we have again signed up American Express 800-799-6634. To give you special help, Carol Pedersen, who handles these matters, does a terrific job for each year, and thank her for it. Hotel rooms can be hard to find, but work with Carol and you will get one. At the Berkshire Furniture Mart, located on a 77 acres site on 72nd Street between Dodge and Pacific, we'll again be having Berkshire Weekend discount pricing. We initiated this special event at NFM 10 years ago, and sales during the weekend grew from $5.3 million in 1997 to $30 million in 2006. I get goosebumps just thinking about this volume. To obtain the Berkshire discount, you must make your purchase between Thursday, May 3rd, and Monday, May 7th, inclusive, and also present your meeting credential. The period special pricing will even apply to the products of several prestigious manufacturers that normally have ironclad rules against discounting, but which in the spirit of our shareholder weekend have made an exception for you. We appreciate your cooperation. NFM is open from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. only on Sunday. On Saturday this year, from 5:30 to 8 p.m., NFM is having a special shareholder picnic featuring chicken and beef tacos and hamburger for traditionalists like me. Remodeled and expanded Boris Times, we will again have 2 shareholders-only events. The first will be a cocktail reception from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Friday, May 4th. The second, the main gala, will be held on Sunday, May 6th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday. We'll be open until 6 p.m. We'll have viewers crowds at Boris Times throughout the weekend for your convenience. Therefore, shareholder prices will be available from Monday, April 30th through Saturday, May 12th. During that period, please identify yourself as a shareholder by presenting your meeting credentials or a brokerage statement that shows you're a Berkshire shareholder. On Sunday, in the tent outside of Boris Times, the blindfolded Patrick Wolf, twice U.S. chess champion, will take on all comers who will have their eyes wide open in a group of 6. Last year, I carried on conversation with Patrick while he played in this manner. Nearby, Norman Beck, a remarkable emergence from Dallas will bewilder onlookers. Additionally, we'll have Bob Hammond and Sharon Osberg, two of the world's top bridge experts, available to play bridge with their shareholders on Sunday afternoon. To add on Sunday, founded Border Times Ariel Singh will play table tennis, ping pong is initiated from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. against anyone brave enough to take her on. Ariel, though only 11, is ranked number 1 among girls under 16 in the U.S. and number 1 among boys and girls under 12. The week I turned 75, I played Ariel, then 9, and barely tall enough to see across the table, thinking I would take it easy on her so as to not crush her young spirit. Instead, she crushed me. I've since devised a plan that will give me a chance against her. At 1 p.m. on Sunday, I will initiate play with a 2-point game against Ariel. If I somehow with the first point, I will then feign injury and claim victory. After this strenuous encounter wears Ariel down, our shareholders can then try their luck against her. Gordon's will be open exclusively for Berkshire shareholders on Sunday, May 6th, and will be open from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. Please remember that to come to course on the day, you must have a reservation. To make one call, 402-551-3733 on April 1st, but not before. In the 2006-2007 school year, 35 university classes, including one from IBMEC in Brazil, will come to Omaha for sessions with me. I take almost all and aggregate more than 2,000 students to lunch at Coret's, and they love it. To learn why, come join us on Sunday. We will again have a reception at 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon for shareholders who have come from outside of North America. Every year, our meeting draws many people from around the globe, and Charlie and I want to be sure we personally greet those who have come so far. Last year, we enjoyed meeting more than 400 of you from many dozens of countries. Any shareholders who come from other than U.S. Canada will be given special credential and instruction for attending this function. Charlie and I are extraordinarily lucky. We were born in America, had terrific parents who saw that we got good educations, have enjoyed wonderful families and great health, and came equipped with business gene that allows us to prosper in a manner usually disproportionate to other people, contributing so much or more to their society well-being. Moreover, we have had jobs that we love, in which we are helped every day in countless ways by talented, cheerful associates. No wonder we tap dance to work, but nothing is more fun for us than getting together with shareholder partners at Berkshire annual meeting. So join us on May 5th at the QS for annual Woodstock for Capitalist. We'll see you there. February 28, 2007, Warren E. Buffett, Chairman of the Board.